Class is in session. This is your host Luis, and today we're going to take a look at the Set 1 Mono Green Hand Destruction OG Broly. Again, thank you guys so much for being with us today, guys. I'm not gonna try to spend a whole lot of time talking on this video. I can be a little bit long-winded. I have been messing with this deck for quite a bit now, for quite a while now. Battle Evolution is out, but I haven't included Battle Evolution cards in here, not yet. I will very soon. There's a couple different variants that I've been messing around with, and I'm gonna bring all of those to the channel. So stay tuned for all of these ideas that I kind of just been coming up with lately. But we're gonna jump right into it. For those of you guys that don't know what the leader does, this is a Set 1 leader, and it has a permanent. The same permanent that it has on the front is the same permanent that it has on the back. Basically, it says that this card cannot attack battle cards. Now that sucks a little bit, because personally I don't like to attack my opponent and give him value. I like to make sure that his hand is down to nothing if possible, and this deck allows you to do that because you swing, and each time you swing, you and your opponent have to pitch a card from your hand. That is the auto on the front side. But because of the way that the game has kind of shifted towards Unisons and being Unison heavy, you are able to swing at your opponent's Unison and they still have to pitch a card from their hand. Finally, it awakens very easy. When your life is at 4 or less, you draw 2 cards and flip this over. Front side or back side, Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan, same permanent, can't attack battle cards. This is really fun. When this card attacks, you get to draw, and then you and your opponent have to pitch a card from your hand and then pick a card on your side of the board and send it to the drop area. So this is for both you and your opponent, and that sounds pretty bad. I know it sounds really bad, but most of you already know where this is going, and we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the Broly core. First and foremost, back in the day there was a card called Broly's Ring. It was a field card. Basically it just said that you didn't have to pitch off of your leader's skill. So we're going to be playing this card called Demonic Restraint now, which is basically the new Broly's Ring. Now there's a bit of a text here, so I'm going to take a little while reading it and a little while explaining it. But it's a field card and it has a permanent. This card is also treated as Broly's Ring in all areas, and cards in your hand can't be discarded by your green Broly leader card skills. Now I want to be really obvious with this, I think, and very clear with this. Your leader says that you have to pitch and kill a card on your side of the board. It's not KOing it, it's just placing it in the drop area. Any card, as long as it's a card. Demonic Restraint is saying that the only thing you don't have to do is pitch, but you still have to kill a card on your side of the board. Now, a lot of times you don't want to kill a card on your side of the board, and if you don't have any battle cards on your side of the board, you will have to kill this field card. But it is okay. Auto, if your leader card is a mono green Broly card, when this card is either discarded or placed in a drop area from your battle area by one of your leader card or battle card skills, activate this card from the drop area and then add up to 1 card from your life to your hand. This is really nice because it has that optional self-awaken, allows you to awaken if your opponent isn't swinging at you, and more than anything there are ways to kill this card so that you're able to just bring it right back. And it has an activate main. Once per turn you tap 3 green energies. If your leader card is a mono green Broly card, choose 1 mono green Broly card with an energy cost of 6 or less in your hand and then play it. So this is really nice, and we only run 3 of them, mostly because it's kind of expensive, and if you run 4 and you draw it, you don't get any value out of having another one. It's going to be either a pitch target or a charge target because you will not be able to combo it. So that's one of the biggest reasons why we only run 3 of them. But we're also going to run ourselves 3, I'm going to see if I can fit all this in the camera, 3 SS3 Broly Saiyan Berserker. Wonderful card, great card. I bought it right before it got crazy expensive. I actually got the whole set for like $8 on Facebook, and it was really nice. It has a permanent. Basically, if you have any other cards that aren't green in the deck, you're not able to play this card. And that's okay. We do play a couple cards that aren't green, so we don't really see any gameplay of this card. Also, a tap 4. If you kill a Broly's Ring, you can play this card and then play another Broly from your hand, which is something that we don't do. And when you play this card, you choose a green Broly card in your hand, play it. Already said that. Auto. When this card is placed in your drop area from your hand by skill and your leader card is a Broly card, choose up to 1 Broly's Ring from your deck, activate it, then shuffle your deck. If you do, choose 1 or 2 cards in your life and add them to your hand. So basically, opening turn, you either want to see Saiyan Berserker or Demonic Restraint. Personally, I like to see Saiyan Berserker much more than I want to see Demonic Restraint first turn. And sometimes I will see them both, and I'll just put Demonic Restraint back into the deck for the mulligan. There are a couple different things you can do here. If you do actually, after you mulligan, you end up with the Demonic Restraint and a Broly Saiyan Berserker in your hand, you got two options. You can charge a Demonic Restraint and keep the same Berserker in your hand, so when you swing, you pitch this card, and then you play another Demonic Restraint from the deck and then take up to 2 life if you want. You have to take 1 or 2. So you can't just take 0. This isn't like Demonic Restraint, which gives you the option to take 0. But the biggest issue with that is that you do have a possibility of having your other 2 Demonic Restraints in the life, which is kind of difficult to see, I think. Another thing, more than anything, I like to play it safe more times than not, and I end up just pitching Demonic Restraint using the same Berserker as energy or pitch targets or something like that. We're gonna take a look at the last Broly we got here. We got ourselves 3 Broly, the Rampaging Horror. The SPR is crazy expensive right now. I don't think I'm ever gonna get it. I really want it, but I'm not gonna pay for it. I will say that. You can evolve over any Broly. Doesn't matter what color. It can't be a Broly BR, but it can, as long as it's Broly, it's good. For 5 energies, 4 green and 1 any color that you want. This guy has a 30k base with double strike, so it's a bit of a beast, I think. In auto, when you play this card, choose up to 2 cards from your opponent's hand, and you just place them in the drop area at random. This is nice. Again, it's played with Demonic Restraint more than anything. Again, we don't have the new Battle Evolution stuff quite yet. I don't have it, so I can't really play it quite yet. So I can't bring him out a little earlier or a little faster. You're gonna have to wait till turn 3 minimum in order to play this card from your hand, but again, it's more hand destruction. Another card that's quite broken in the deck, especially if your opponent doesn't have any hand control, is gonna be your Paragus the Sacrifice. Activate main once per turn. You choose 1 green card from your battle area other than this card and place it in the drop area. Then you're able to draw 1 card. This interaction right here with the field card, it's quite ridiculous, personally. So I'm gonna kind of show you what I typically do turn 1 here. Well, we're gonna pretend for a second that my opponent is going second. So I'll just charge, I'll play the Unison. My opponent will swing at me and I'll take it and I'll be a 5 life. Next turn I'll charge, I have 2 energy now. I'll swing with the Broly and I'll pitch myself the SS3. Right? The SS3 is pitched and then I'm able to play this field card. Very, very nice. And then take up to 2 life. I will take both life, bringing myself down to 5. And that's just a 10k swing. Then I'll tap 1 energy and play myself this Paragus the Sacrifice. Activate his skill, kill Demonic Restraint to draw a card. Demonic Restraint skill activates and allows himself to be played again, and then I can take up to 1 life. I will take that life and bring myself down to 4 life, turn 2. Awaken my leader to draw 2 more cards. That's 2 off of SS3, 2 off of Paragus the Sacrifice, or 1 off of Paragus Sacrifice, 1 off Demonic Restraint, and then 2 off of the leader, and you already draw yourself 6 cards very, very quickly. It's up to you however you guys want to do that. This isn't something that you have to do specifically, but this is basically typically how my turn 1 and 2 will go. And if your opponent cannot get rid of Paragus the Sacrifice, that's a +1 every turn, or a +2, +3, +4 every turn if your opponent just doesn't have a way to kill the 1-drop. A lot of the times your opponent won't waste their time and energy going after Paragus the Sacrifice unless their extra card or a battle card specifically picks a card with an energy cost of 1, just because he's not a detriment, and a lot of times you can use him for combo power, especially if you're going up against a yellow deck so you don't get controlled. Next up, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the Unisons as well as the super combos. We're going to be playing 4 Demigra Unison of Sorcery, probably the best Unison for green. This card's also really, really impressive, just in case for some reason you don't see your field card or SS3 Broly Berserker, the ISR. If you don't see those, this right here allows you to awaken very, very quickly. Your opponent will swing at your Unison because they don't want it to be on board. Because if your Unison's on board, well, their counter plays and their counter attacks are completely viable, and you can play them for free. The Demigra Unison of Sorcery has a permanent that if this card would lose a marker from an opponent's attack, you can just take a life instead of removing a marker off of him. And again, that allows you to awaken really, really early. Later on, when you're at 3 life, that's kind of difficult. okay, or 4 life, 3 or 4 life, it's going to be really, really difficult because you don't want to take that last couple of life. You kind of want to stay at 4 life for the rest of the game if possible. Now, there will be situations where you can, you know what, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to take up some life. I'm going to eat it up myself. But you want to try to stay at 4 life as much as you possibly can. So this is not a great late game unison. It is a good replacement if your opponent hits you with Kai. But it is not a great game ending unison or a late game unison. It's really, really good in the early game. And we have a unison to supplement that. +1, this card gains 10k, so he's a 15k swing on turn 1. And then -3, you can choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and KO it, then choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier with an energy cost of 3, and also KO it. So it removes 2 cards off the board, which is really, really helpful. You get some Boker and other things like that just have pesky King Piccolo for sure. Those stupid blockers that are really, really obnoxious that have barrier you can't get around. This is really, really helpful against that. Next, we're going to be looking at the second unison that I chose to play is Raditz Invader from Afar. Thinking about bumping him down to 2 because if you see him too many times, well, he's kind of dead in your hand. You don't want to have 2 unisons in your hand. You can't use them for combo or anything. They can be used for pitch ability or anything like that, but I have pumped them down to 2 before, and then there's some games where I just won't see them consistent enough, and consistency is the name of the game for me, and I kind of really like consistency in any deck. But it has Activate Main that you don't really use very often. You can for knowledge, I guess, for game knowledge. You flip 1 card and your opponent's life face up, and now you and your opponent know what that is, and when the moment they decide to take it, you know what they have in their hand. +1, you may choose 1 card in your hand, discard it, and if you do, your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand and discards it. And then you choose up to one of your cards and it gains critical for the turn. That includes himself, that includes the leader, that includes the big boy Broly with double strike. And that's the reason why this card's in this deck. Because again, I like to play resource denial. So my opponent is planning on taking the swings that I swing with my leader because they have to pitch a card. And well, I get to replace that card that I just pitched from my hand by taking a life. Well, if you swing 15k critical with your leader, they lose a card from their hand. And if they decide to take the hit, they lose a card from their life. And if they decide that they don't want to take the hit, well, they have to negate the attack and lose another card from their hand. And that, I guess that's the main point of this deck, is to continue to make my opponent lose all resources so that essentially they can't play the game. Finally, super combo. You can play any super combo that you want, and I'll go over a couple different variants where I have different super combos. I'm thinking about running a 2-2 split here with the Android 18 super combo because it makes them pitch a card, but I do realize that this deck struggles with hand value quite a bit. Since it struggles with hand size quite a bit, it's going to be a little hard to defend on a lot of games against certain opponents. Mirror match kind of hurts too. Neither you or your opponent will have cards in your hand in the mirror match, and that's why I kind of went with Great Saiyaman. Now I do have some Paragus coming in the mail, and I think the Paragus might be a little better, just in case you run into a situation where, well, you don't have a card to bottom deck, and well, Paragus Sacrifice allows you to draw 2 and then warp 1, and Great Saiyaman forces you to bottom deck a card first and then draw 2. Not Paragus Sacrifice, the Paragus Super Combo. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. All right, next we're going to take a look at just a bunch of green good stuff that we kind of play in the deck. We're going to be playing 2 Cells, Earth Destroying Kamehameha. Really nice for defense, more than offense, unless you're ending the game with this card. So it is a really good card to end the game with. But a lot of the times I kind of just use it for defense so that I can stay alive. So I'll show you in a second what that looks like, but basically if your leader card is green, you choose up to one of your leader cards or battle cards that does not include a unison. It gets 15k power for the battle, and then if all your energy is green, you get to when you activate this card, you choose 1 card in your opponent's hand and send it to the drop area. So you snipe anything you want out of their hand, and it's really, really nice. We're gonna be running 8 negates. We're gonna be running 2 Shocking Death Ball, that's your sparking negate, 2 for Greater Good, because you do have to pitch cards sometimes from your hand, and that's a good card to use from your drop area. Basically allows you to activate it from your hand, or you can activate it while it's in the drop area. But when you activate it from your hand or the drop area, you can't activate that card again for the turn, or copies of the card for the turn. But you activate it from your hand by tapping 1 green energy, negates the swing. And secondly, from the drop area, you tap 1 green energy, you send this card to the warp, or you remove it from the game, and then you choose a card from your hand and also remove it from the game. And it has to be green. Next, we're going to be playing 4 Dormant Potential Unleashed. Really, really good card. Personally, this is the reason why this deck is viable and playable. Dormant Potential really just stops your opponent from swinging so much, and all you have to do is play defense the first swing and second swing, and you're good to go. Which is why we have a bunch of, well, we want to play our super combos, and we want to play the IAR, the Cells Destroying Kamehameha, and stuff like that, just so that your opponent can't swing a whole bunch. Obviously, we're going to be playing Frieza Charismatic Villain. Really, really nice. Counterplay, kill anything, as long as it doesn't have barrier and an energy cost of 7 or less. Only downside is that it does allow your opponent to play those battle cards, so those cards that are played do get their skills to go off and stuff like that. Next, we're going to be looking at Master Roshi Kamehameha Origins. For 1 green energy, if this card's in your drop area, you can send it to the warp, and you can add a green extra card from your drop area to your hand. So it is a +1. It's a +1 that your opponent knows you have, but if you're playing against anything but yellow, you should be fine being able to add those dormant potentials back to you. Finally, friends, we're going to be taking a look at a few more tech options that we got here. Again, hand size is an issue, so we're going to play 1 Great Ape, Saiyan Instincts, really nice. Tap 2 energy, send this card from the drop area to the warp, draw 2 cards, really helpful. Next, we're going to be taking a look at 2 cards that are quite similar. Son Goku, Power of Legend. We only play 2 because we don't want to ruin our green count that much. And basically, once your opponent pitches a card off of any type of skill, you get to play his card from your hand. He's a 15k critical on board, so it's also really, really helpful. And he's board removal, so for 0 energy, you can warp this card from the board, and you can warp anything on your opponent's side of the board with energy cost of 4 or less. It doesn't ignore barrier, so I will note that, but it's really good for like annoying blockers when you're trying to end the game or anything like that. And it is a critical swing, so your opponent, if he doesn't want to take it, he's going to have to combo out of it and lose cards from his hand. It's just a plus overall. It does have unique, so the turn, once you play this, you can't have it again on board. And if you warp this card from the field, you're not able to play him again for the turn, so you have to wait a turn, which is another big part of the reason why we only play with 2, because we can't really flood the board with these. Surprise Attack Frieza, essentially the same thing, but we're trying to keep our green count up. When you KO one of your opponent's battle cards, you're able to play this card from your hand completely for free, as long as this card isn't on board. Now, it doesn't have any board removal, and it does suck if it's in your hand and it's the end of the game, because it is a 10k combo power, but it is also a pitch target that you're able to use. Finally, it was between Zarbon and Tapion, and I kind of went ahead and used Tapion, and I'll explain some of the differences here in just a second. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about the plus and minuses. We're playing 3 Tapion on the deck as opposed to playing any Zarbon Cosmic Elite. Zarbon Cosmic Elite is a great card, and so is Tapion. And I'm gonna read them both and then go over like the differences and who I think is better and why. Tapion has energy exhaust, but he's also a blocker. Now, Zarbon is also a blocker. Now, the good thing about Tapion is that he's played, you just tap 1 energy, you pitch him from your hand, and then you draw a card. At the end of the turn, you're able to play him. So then the next turn, you activate Dormant Potential, and then you try to combo out of that attack, or take it if you need to, and then their second swing, you just activate Blocker on it, and you stay alive. And essentially, you do that with either one of these. You can do it with either one of them. But Zarbon is quite different. So for 1 green energy, choose 1 green card in your hand and discard it. Play this card from your drop area. If your opponent has 5 or more cards in their hand, when this card is removed from the battle area by a skill or KO'd, your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand and discards it. So again, this is more hand destruction, so I understand why many people have chosen to play Zarbon. But Zarbon essentially costs 2 energies. So in a lot of the times in the game, you either tap an energy or lose value somewhere else to compensate for that second energy. In this case, you would have to pitch an extra green card from your hand. The deck is struggling with hand size, so that's why Zarbon really isn't in here. Now, I may play 1 Zarbon and 2 Tapion, but the reason why Tapion I think is better is because you're able to replace him from your hand. So you tap an energy, pitch him, and then you draw a card. So you don't lose any hand value. As a matter of fact, you filter through your deck a little bit more, and you get a 15k blocker on board that you could potentially, if you don't combo out with it, swing with it by giving it critical or whatever you need to do the next turn. Now, Zarbon does have his pluses. Zarbon is continuously played over and over again from your drop area unless your opponent warps it. And that's why I think a lot of people have chosen to play Zarbon Cosmic Elite. But again, my biggest qualm, my biggest issue is that it forces you to pitch a card. I don't want to pitch cards from my hand. I want my opponent to pitch cards from their hand. And that's why we kind of just, that's why we've gone with Tapion over Zarbon. Finally, we're going to talk about the last card in the deck that we went with. We're going to be playing ourselves Supreme Kai of Time, Space Unraveler, mostly because you can put this card in any deck, and it is very helpful for defense. It has the ultimate tag, which means you can only play one of them, and a permanent. If this card would be removed from the battle area, remove it from the game instead. It has 2 activate, 1 activate main and 1 activate battle. The activate battles for 1 energy. If you have 3 or more energy, you play this card from your hand, and if you do, your opponent can't attack with leader cards or unison cards for the turn. This is very helpful. If your opponent swings with a battle card first, you hit it with Dormant Potential. You activate battle during the combo step because you're allowed to do that now, and play Supreme Kai of Time. And now your opponent can't swing with his unison or his leader, and it's very, very helpful. During your next turn, you activate main, you tap 1 energy, you choose this card and all of your opponent's battle cards and unison cards and send them to the owner's warp. Now this card gets removed from the game, but that's okay. The card did its job and it did it really, really well. It's a board wipe. It's essentially 2 energies and it's really, really nice. Again, thank you guys so much for spending this time with us today and taking a look at this variant. Again, it doesn't have Battle Evolution, but it doesn't mean that Battle Evolution isn't good. A lot of the cards in Battle Evolution are phenomenal. They're quite wonderful. And you guys let me know down in the comments if there's anything that you would do differently, anything that you think you could do better. I definitely want to see what other people think about the deck and what other variants that people are playing. I'm trying to get better at the game just like everybody else, essentially. And also let me know down in the comments, who is your favorite Broly out of all the movies in the show? Is it OG Broly? Is it Broly BR? Personally, I like Broly BR because he becomes a good guy. I never liked him as a bad guy. But I love the artwork for this deck. I really do appreciate the artwork, even though it is set 1 stuff. The artwork is still pretty great. And again, I think I'm going to have a lot of fun playing with this deck. And you guys let me know down in the comments if there's anything we can do for you guys. We appreciate you guys. We're praying for you guys always. God bless.